listening to Wake Up Hollywood with Nikki Korula and Eddie Pence, right here on LA Talk Radio.
Wake Up Hollywood. This is your host of the most, Nikki Korula. We're going to jump right into this episode. We are welcoming back a guest from a couple years ago, Mr. Patrick Baker, a.k.a. The Dark Sea. How are you, Patrick?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm good, man. I like the headphones. You got the Princess Leia headphone buttons, man. I just did a session where I had headphones like that, and I had the Princess Leia, the buns, and I loved them. I was like, this is it, man. This is it.
The buns are awesome. Yeah, I dig it.
So you used to live in Austin, correct? And now you live in Nashville?
Yeah, it's been a little journey. So we
tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so during the pandemic, it just got everyone I think was feeling a little stir crazy, especially in California because everything was locked down. And I was like on a fitness kick. Right before the pandemic, I was riding my bike every day on the beach. It was amazing. Loving life, and then all of a sudden everything was shut down. It's like government orders to stay inside, and at a certain point it was just like, I'm not anti-mask or anything, but I just felt like I wanted the freedom to move around and go walk my dog and not have to worry about the police pulling me over. It got a little hairy, and then so we moved to Austin. That was kind of that was supposed to be a 6-month experiment, and we ended up staying for 3.5 years.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was one of those things where my wife works remotely, and her job, we thought we would have to come back. And they're one of the few companies that to this day, they're just like, no, you're good. Which
That's
is great.
awesome.
Yeah.
And Austin is such a happening music city. I love that you keep jumping around from music city to music city. So tell me what that transition was like.
Yeah, it was cool. We were like looking at buying a house, and we thought about Austin, but there were a couple things that just kind of threw us off. Without getting political, the politics are a little squirrely for us in Texas, as they say. Right. The problem with Austin is it's in Texas.
Right. It's the Blue Star in Texas. That's what they say.
I'm in the same boat in Nashville. I mean, I personally I'm good with it. It is what it is. But I was just so hot there. Like the summer we left the year before was like 100 degrees for like 3 months straight.
Wow.
Plus. And I was like, I can't handle this. I'm used to my California weather.
Yes.
It's really nice all the time. and we actually went on this crazy road trip where like we didn't know where we were going to end up. We checked out, we had already been on the West Coast for a while. Like we both grew up on the West Coast. So we like went through the South and along the East Coast. We stayed in Atlanta for a month. That was like a strong contender. Stayed in Brooklyn for a month. We did a bunch of like little one-off stop-offs in like North and South Carolina, like a bunch of New Orleans, a bunch of different spots.
I was about to ask, did you stop in New Orleans? That would have been my go-to.
That was the first of many stops, but that was cool. Like I was really glad. That was actually like a weird, like a kind of strange rite of passage for me. Because like I had been like, I kind of was like completely sober. And I developed like a drinking habit over the pandemic. And it just
natural for a lot of people because
man, it was bad. Like it was one of those things where like I wasn't like blackout or anything, but I just found myself planning activities around drinking. It wasn't because I was like, going to a movie, like I realized it wasn't because I wanted to see the movie, it was because it was like an excuse for me to go drink. I was like, this is stupid.
Right.
And so that was actually my last drink was on Bourbon Street.
Wow. Really?
Yeah.
Was it because of the festivities always going on at Bourbon Street, or was it just because You just hit the wall.
I was already thinking about it. I already like tailed it back to like one drink, but I was just like, this is just, and I have like issues with my family on both sides with that, and I was just like, this is just a road I don't need to continue to go down. And so that was a big turning point for me. And I didn't really fully appreciate. I was like, it's not going to be a huge deal, and I'm like, it was like a 6-month journey to even just feel normal again. I think now it's been close to a year and a half, and like I feel great and everything's good. But it was, it kind of sneaks up on you, and I was just like, so I have a couple songs that are like, we won't play them today. They're like, I think some of my best work.
That's awesome. That's it. You know what? It kind of is cool when you write clear-headed, because it just gives you a different perspective than the fog that, it can happen also with drinking or etc. It's like I've been sober 23 years. So it's like I just love being that clear and focused. And I'm sure that's like a welcome difference in just like, being sober, but it's definitely a transition, and it's a good one. I always tell people it's the smartest decision I ever made, just because I just always feel clear. It's like you feel like you're kind of thinking on a level that you can deal with stuff. It makes it easier. Definitely makes it easier.
I also didn't appreciate, it's like one of those like elusive, obvious things where, of course, anyone would tell you this, but like, I'm a sensitive artist, and like putting in a bunch of crap in my body, it's like, I already got enough stuff going on. I don't need to complicate that additionally.
Yes. It's like, and it's also, I wasn't the type of person where I could just like, oh, I can have a drink and then I'm good. You know what I mean? It'd be like, I'd be like, well, why not 5 drinks? Why not 2 bottles of wine instead of 1? So I kind of knew, okay, if I don't kind of get my act together a little bit, then it's just going to get dark real quick. You know what I mean? It's going to be.
No, I'm the same way.
So how do you like Nashville? You digging Nashville now?
Nashville's amazing. I mean, it's like
Nashville is amazing.
It's weird because they say it rains more than Seattle, which is true.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's it has kind of like it doesn't have the same coastal vibe to it, but it has a lot of rain, a lot of music. But it's funny. Like I live in this little I would describe it as like a kind of hipster Silver Lake, Brooklyn part of Nashville called East Nashville, where all the like indie clubs are. And so it's this Broadway, which is that whole like tourist country rock cover thing. And but I don't really see that unless I have guests from out of town. We'll take them down there just to show them what Broadway is.
Right. Yeah, it's a lot smaller than what most people think, but everybody that now lives in Nashville tells me how fast Nashville's growing out. It's just becoming bigger and bigger and bigger because it's just growing out all the time,
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, it's similar energy to Austin, but I feel like it's, I don't know, maybe better done. Like they seem to be more thinking about it from like, how does this impact everybody? Where in Austin, I get the sense that there were some really like kind of shady side deals, and I'm sure that happens in most cities, but it seems like they're pretty on the level from what I've seen. I've only been here a year, so we'll see.
Well, that's awesome. I played Bonnaroo twice, so I always spend like a couple days in Nashville, and it's just cool. It's a cool music city, great food, great people, great music. I saw a lot of slamming bands. A lot of my friends still live out there, and it's just an awesome vibe. When you were out in Cali, you were actually one of my songwriting students. So tell me how that influenced your writing, just moving from city to city. Were you writing like crazy, or were you too stressed with moving that you're just like, I can't deal with it?
Yeah. So when I first started, like I barely sang. I remember like everyone did like a little performance at the end of it. And like I was so unconfident that I actually like sang along to, it was a like Tears for Fears track, I think.
Yep.
It's like it was a cover. I can't remember the name of that song. But it was Mad World.
Mad World. I was about to say it's the song that the guy covered. I'm trying to think of that guy's name. Gary Jules.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But to answer your question, like the big thing, like with writing, is just like find a space for it, and I don't feel like I've kind of accumulated so many songs at this point. I haven't been writing as much as of late, but just like having a morning ritual in the morning, especially in Austin, it was like I get up every morning and just start playing something, and something come out every day, and just
that's awesome. Well, it's also like when you get to that routine of just like working on music, channeling music, writing, recording, it's like all of it starts coming together, and you're like, oh, this is why I do this. You know, it's like there's just a vibe where it's like I'm in this weird place now where it's like, man, everything feels so like easy, like the way it's coming to me. It's like it was always a struggle, and it just feels like ease of use and ease of just, you know, facilitating the craft. And I love that. But it also is like you wonder, am I working this hard? But you are. It's like you've been working hard throughout the whole process. So are you recording? Are you writing every day? Like, what is that creative like process like for you?
Yeah, I got so I have like a little home studio. That's what I'm in right now. Been recording stuff. Actually, the tracks that we'll hear later are tracks that I've recorded with Rob mostly.
Awesome.
The guitar stuff, I think I did all here, but I had a couple guys I hired that were amazing. It's Sean Hurley and Ryan Brown.
Yeah. Sean's like, he's one of the cats, man. He's playing with Mayer and all kinds of people. Vertical Horizon and Adina Menzel, I think, is also. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and he's even like he did a track for, what's her name, Lizzie McAlpine, with Ceilings, which is a huge track. So that was kind of cool.
That's awesome.
Good on him. Yeah, man, I've just been doing everything in terms of the recording stuff. Almost have a full band here, just trying to get the last piece, which is his drummer. So I had a band in Austin, and like because of the pandemic, it was a whole process to even get people together, and we finally got it together. But it was like right when we were feeling like we wanted to leave, and so like I had a full band ready, gig ready, and I was like, sorry guys, I gotta break this up. I gotta leave.
Wow, that's tough. Especially when I know how much time it takes to kind of put a band together. And then it's like, once you have that, it's hard to just kind of like move on. Like, how was that transition? That must have been a little bit difficult. You're like,
it was the easiest, hardest thing. Like I've never been the guy to like break up a relationship, but it was time. I didn't feel bad about it. I thought I would, but it just needed to happen. And everyone was cool about it. They understood, like, hey man, you gotta live your life. So,
well, let's play something. What do you want to play first?
Let's play Chasing Ghosts.
All right, here's Chasing Ghosts by The Dark Sea.
Hey, wait, this is our town. Chance to stand on solid ground. We roam these streets like we did before, as if we knew what we're looking for. Take a walk, take it in. Where you from, where you been? So close, so far, up and down the boulevard. Hey, chase
Yeah, tell me what the inspiration behind that song was.
So my dad was kind of had cancer. I kept going back and forth to see him over the last couple of years. He just passed. I'm actually flying out tomorrow to do the funeral. But
Facebook, I remember sending you a condolence message because
yeah, man, I appreciate that.
tell me what that process must have been very difficult to write about something like that while you're experiencing it.
Well, so the inspiration was that was like the song's almost a side journey in a way, which is that like I kept coming back. My dad was living in a totally different part of the Bay Area, but the part I would stay in was very close to the city I grew up in, which is this little island called Alameda, which is like a naval base growing up. And it was just like this weird situation where like I don't know if you've ever had this before where like you go and check out like a place that you grew up and it's like there's like a little bit of a toxic nostalgia where you kind of go like that time and place doesn't exist. Even if the building's the same, it doesn't have the same feeling. There's just like a little bit of an ick factor. And that's kind of what inspired it. It was just like being like, wow, this is kind of cool, reminiscing, but it also feels kind of gross.
Right.
And that was kind of the I don't know if that resonates at all, but that was the inspiration behind the song.
Yeah, I think it's what's hard is like the passing of time, things change, buildings change, like locations stay the same, but everything around it and within it changes. And that's kind of how we are too. It's like, man, I'm a different person than when I was in high school. And if I drive by my high school, it looks different, but then so do I. I look different and I'm, older and just, some ways wiser, some ways just as silly. But yeah, it's just like one of those things where you are chasing nostalgia. It's exactly it, So,
Yeah.
And did your father's sickness have anything to do with just like some of the imagery and the lyrics and or were you talking about more of your hometown stuff? Like how did that kind of permeate through the song?
Yeah, I mean, I would really say that this song was not about him. I mean, there's another song that has some of that in it, but this really was about growing up and just realizing that like I'm a different person, life is different. And also there's like a little bit I guess the bridge part is just like coming to the realization at some point this is all ending and that like we can't take it with us and we can't get back what we used to have. And so it's just like accepting the inevitable.
And how did you go about like the production for the song? Were you thinking different things for the arrangement of parts? Like you have some of the guitars tucked in the back and then you have some parts where they're loud and proud. How did you kind of go about the production?
Yeah, I mean that's a demo. There's actually a better version of it that I should have sent you, but I will.
That's all right. That's okay.
Yeah, I think the big thing was like originally when I wrote it was I was thinking the Doors, and so like I don't know how well it translated, but there's like some organs in the chorus. I was like kind of like an ode to the Doors. And so like the bass line stuff, like those guys, like I wrote all the parts out in terms of the drums and bass, and they implemented it at like a really high level, which was great. So it's kind of cool to go from like a demo of like, okay, I have some MIDI sounds that sound pretty decent, but like not a live band to like and then in terms of the production stuff, I basically had them to the bass and drums, and I had tracked the vocals previously to that demo.
I actually hear a lot of Nirvana influence on that song for some reason.
Yep.
Very like Come As You Are, like that era of Nirvana where it's like dark brooding, kind of like melancholy, but also kind of like powerful too, it has that emo vibe.
That's exactly the way I describe it to people. I get Pink Floyd a lot too on that song.
Okay, yeah, it's got like, some real stuff.
I think it's probably because I say "Hey" and it's in E minor, and I think a lot of Gilmore stuff would be in E minor, so I think that's probably that.
That makes sense. That makes sense. And tell me what your writing process is like. Do you start with like a guitar riff? Do you start with lyrics? Do you start with kind of a song title? How do you kind of with the song?
Historically, it's been guitar first, and then I'll write whatever comes out of my mouth. You can call it stream of consciousness, whatever. And then sometimes it'll be complete thoughts. A lot of times it'll be like just like there'll be a little line that I'll like latch onto and kind of like build the melodies. Almost always stay the same. Like I'm pretty good at coming out with melodies right off the bat. But you had mentioned this earlier about like almost feeling like you don't deserve like the songs that like your songwriting process. And I feel that now where it's like I'll have stuff come out. Like, cause I remember seeing stuff with like Tom Petty and Rick Rubin. He's talking about him just like having fully formed song come out of him while he's performing it. Perfect.
Right.
And I'm not at that level yet, but I have had situations where verse, chorus, whatever other parts come out fully formed, and I'm like, maybe I change a word or two, but it's like pretty impressive. That's more the tip I'm on these days, but it really depends. But almost always it starts with a musical idea, usually a guitar thing.
I love that. I usually start with a riff of some sort, or a piano riff or something.
Yeah.
And then that gets things rolling, and then it's just about like picking melodies and then turning melodies into words. That's like my process most of the time. But every now and then lyrics will strike me and I'll just start writing words first, you know, but usually it's something with guitar or piano, and then it's just like formulating the songs, you know?
Right.
Let's play something else. What do you want to play us next?
Let's do My Brother's Keeper.
Here's My Brother's Keeper by The Dark Sea.
Can't be your enemy. Sometimes something's lost inside of me. In the town where we were born, memories worn and torn. Someone told me you can't quit. How did it come to this? Slipping down or doing time? What the fuck? Lost your mind? Take me home, take me back. Good night. Take me home, take me back. Goodbye, my friend. Oh, see yours again. I know you're always children come back. Goodbye, my friend. Oh, see your face again. I know it's hard to take just one more to numb the pain.
That was cool. I like that little Zeppelin tag at the end. That was cool. Very
Thank you.
cool.
Appreciate it.
So I know you mentioned what the Dark Sea, the symbolism is in the first interview, but just to remind our listeners, tell us where you came up with the name for your artist name, the Dark Sea, and what it means.
Yeah, so my grandfather's name was Douglas, which the translation is the Dark Sea. My father's name is also Douglas. I'm also Douglas, but I go by Patrick. So it was like a bit of a homage to them, of just like paying tribute to who came before. It also just, I like the concept of my stuff is always kind of like on like a melancholy tip. And so the idea of having something that's like water or sea that's flowing, I just like the imagery of that as well. Is just something that is not fixed, but at the same time, water could be frozen. There's a lot of different elements that you can kind of apply to that, and just I like the visual of that.
Who are your biggest influences as far as writing or just like music in general?
I'd probably categorize it into a couple different things. So growing up, like my three main bands was Nirvana, as you mentioned, Guns N' Roses, Metallica. Those were the three ones that I spent the most time listening to as like a high school kid.
Right.
My dad was a beatnik. He had a alternative newspaper in Dallas in the 60s, when that was not an okay thing to do. And like they were like, he had the FBI like after him, like it was all kinds of craziness. As a result of that, he like interviewed a lot of musicians, went to a lot of shows. He had a huge record collection. And so there was a lot of stuff that I would, every couple months ago, like I would go by and I would like read in like Guitar World magazine about some band, and I'd be like, oh, the Doors, let me check them out, or this band. And then I'd go back to his record collection and find out that, oh, he actually has a couple of those records. Where like the Beatles was one that was like, I remember being into Nirvana, and then like they mentioned the Beatles a lot, and I was like, oh, let me go check that out. And I was like, yeah. So that was the other big influence. and I just go through phases. I'm sure you're like this, but like I've been on a huge indie country phase, so I've been listening to a lot of like Tyler Chiller, Zach Bryan, Jason Isbell, and then a lot of like female songwriters like Boy Genius, Phoebe Bridgers, Finn Lilly, stuff like that. Those are kind of the two worlds I've been living in while doing this sort of like alt grunge project that has nothing to do with those.
Well, sometimes it's good, like you pull or at least listen to things that are unlike what you're doing. I think there's a draw, like for me with bands like that. Like I love bands that don't sound like what I'm doing or what I'm currently trying to do. And then there's the other side of it where it's like I'll go see bands that sound exactly like what I do, and that's also inspiring. But it's like, I think everything comes down to what inspires you, what are you listening to, how can you use these ingredients to like, pepper it into your songs and artistry on some level, you know what I mean? So let's talk about that last song. Tell me what your concept was with the guitars, production, etc.
Yeah, guitars was really kind of going for like, I don't know, like kind of a 90s Guns N' Roses Metallica song. It was kind of the vibe, but it has like, you can hear it has like a kind of like a spoken Bob Dylan thing in the verses. The guitar stuff was like just a lot of fun. I mean, besides there's like one or two chords in the bridge that like kind of, I mean, it's very like pop in a way because the chord change is exactly the same all the way through, but there's a lot of different movements within those chord changes. So I'm switching from like open chords to bar chords to like staccato.
And what are you using for like guitar tone or guitar pedals, just to get into the nitty gritty of all of that too?
Yeah, so I've been using a Mesa Boogie dual rectifier for a while. The reverb you're hearing on the guitars is Universal Audio. It's like I think it's called Golden something or other.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yep, I know that.
That's along with a carbon copy delay. That's kind of my staple.
I love that delay. Which one is it? The one with the tap tempo, or is it the one that just has the dials?
Just the dials. I've thought about the tap tempo though. I'm
looking at buying that right now.
Are you?
I love the dials, but all of my tap tempos, I mean, all my favorite delays are all tap tempos, except for that one. But it doesn't sound as good as the one with the dials for some reason. I don't know why. Maybe it's just like the way I'm hearing it, but the tap tempo takes something away from how good the carbon copy sounds on its own,
Sometimes that happens with gear. I'm always surprised. Sometimes it's like you add one little feature and it like kills the whole thing.
Yes. So that's one of the reasons I didn't buy it, but now I'm wanting to buy it because it's still one of my favorite delays, and I think I can get it to where it's
get it to work. Yeah.
It's like one of those things. And what do you have, overdrive or any chorus pedals or any distortion pedals?
To make up for the lack of mid-range on the dual rec, I usually run some sort of overdrive. It was probably a TS9 with like the classic like drive all the way off, level all the way up, just to kind of push it and give it a mid-range boost, especially that kind of like upper mid that particular amp was kind of missing. So
that's awesome. I love it. I love talking gear. And what guitars are you playing on these songs?
I've been playing this guy. It's like my go-to. Nice. It's like American HSS Strat. It's like the Pro 2 or whatever. It came out a couple years ago. Les Paul. And then I have like a D'Angelo semi-hollow, which I played on the Chasing Ghosts song. I've had a bunch of other guitars that I've bought and sold, and it's possible that they're on that song and I just forgot. So
I'm always looking at guitars. I'm sure you're the same way. Like you're always looking at different guitars, different ways to kind of like put them together, different models, different years. I'm always looking.
Well, and it's funny, like, I don't know if you're like this. Sometimes I'll have a sound in my head that I can't quite get. And so, like, there's this sound, and I've tried a bazillion different guitars and amps, and I was like, I can't figure it out. And I finally figured out that, like, for the song that we'll play later is, and it's not all recorded yet, I'll have to re-record it, but it's a Jazz Master. That was the tone that was in my head. And I was just like, I couldn't figure, I was like, it's not quite right. And then like I started going down a rabbit hole and finally figured it out. And I was like, because I always kind of like avoided them. And I don't know why, but I just did.
I love them. I've got a Jazz Master, and I don't play it as much as I play. Right now, I'm just like so into the Silver Sky. The John Mayer Silver Sky guitar. There's something about it. I don't know if it's because it's so light and it sounds so big. I just can't get enough of playing it lately. But I whip out other guitars all the time just because it's like that's one of the joys of this is like to play different gear and just to kind of get different moments out of it,
Kind of quick nerdy question. Did you try the new strings that he came out with?
No, I haven't tried them, but I just saw them. Have you tried them yet?
No, I'm like interested, but I don't know if I'm interested enough to make the switch.
I don't love Ernie Ball strings, so I probably won't make the switch.
I
love DRs.
Oh, DR. I thought you were gonna say Diodario.
No, I love DR strings. Like they're my favorite. My favorite strings are DRs and pyramids. And then I was endorsed for a long time. I still kind of am for Elixir strings.
Okay.
But yeah, it's just it's one of those things where when I love a certain feel, it becomes the thing, and that's it. And it's like I don't love anything else as much, So I've tried so many. I've tried loving Ernie Ball strings. I just don't love them,
No, I get it. I went away from them, came back to them. Now I'm on a Diodario kick.
Okay, all right.
What
do you play? 10s, 11s?
I'm a guitar to guitar guy, and then also tuning is a big thing. So if it's a Strat, it's usually 10s to tune down a half step.
Okay.
And then my Les Pauls, like 11 to 48. Again, also tune down a half step, but I'll sometimes tune it up, and I'll just play that as like in standard.
I've never gotten the tuning down the half step thing, only because I just feel like it just everything resonates in E. You know what I mean? But I mean, yeah. Steve Ray Vaughan did it, Hendrix did it, and it's also like I know if I do that, then I have to have another guitar that's tuned. I don't want to bring two guitars if I don't have to, or if I want to have two guitars, I just want to have them both in E so that I know that, this is what But I always think about doing it on a record. I just never do it.
Yeah, well, it's an interesting trip. I mean, like the Chili Peppers' last couple albums, they did half step, and that was just weird because I've always heard them in standard. But I feel you on the tuning. It's a thing, and having done it a couple times with the gigs, it's having to switch the guitar out for no other reason than the tuning's a little annoying.
So tell me what the purpose is. Is it just like a singing thing? I mean, that's what Hendrix and Steve Ray Vaughan did it for. They did it for like just bringing things down a half step for vocals. But what is it for you? Is it also the same thing, or is it a color that you like, just going a half step lower?
So it's both. So like my vocal range has gotten like insane where I can get really low, like probably an octave lower than I'm talking right now. And then I can also get like pretty high, like close to like Chris Cornell Axl level stuff when I'm warmed up. So it no longer is an issue, but initially that was part of it, was like just hitting an E was like a high E on a guitar was like hard for me at that point when I first started singing. Now it's like, okay, the hard part is that the octave higher than that, but yeah, so it's just like the big other thing is just the vibe. I mean, most of my favorite bands, the tone is like Guns N' Roses, Smashing Pumpkins. Probably half Nirvana songs are tuned to half step down. Or then obviously there's a lot of stuff in drop D too. You know, that's
Yep.
That could be a.
I use DADGAD a lot. On my acoustic. I never do it on my electric, but electric I just keep it in standard and just try to, you know, muscle my way through whatever it is. It was interesting to do the Hendrix covers in standard when he was doing them in a half step lower. But I didn't really. The only thing I would hear every now and then, I'm like, oh, I can hear a little bit of the tone is different when he's hitting the same note a half step, you know, tuned lower, just because of the slinkiness of the guitar, or like maybe it's a bend or something. I would hear it there, but I was like, that's not enough of a difference for me to make the switch, just because, you know, because I know what the gigging life is like. You know, it's like, I don't want to bring another extra guitar just for that.
Well, plus you don't want to deal with having to get a guitar set. If you're not playing that, you don't want to pay someone to have to set it up that way.
Yeah.
And honestly, like the thing I've realized having gigged a little bit around town is just like, you can get away with playing it, and regardless, it's not, most people aren't going to notice the difference. Right. I know some bands, they've tuned down a half step just because they've gotten older, and that's a thing. So like Metallica, again, one of my favorite bands, like, and I don't know if they still do this, but I know for years they would tune a half step down just because it was easier on James' vocals.
Oh, that's interesting. See, I found a lot of people are doing it for that reason more than anything else. But, you know, I hear the tone. I hear like some of the things about it that make sense to me, you know, so it's not a stretch. Let's get to your last song. What are you going to play next?
Last one is called So It Goes.
And here is So It Goes by the Dark Sea.
Okay, just I'm alive without you here. Am I alive without you here? Sound of rain across the sky, a pitter patter, a last goodbye. anything I could say. It's gonna be alright, 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 alright. I'm not alright. It's gonna be okay, 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 okay. I'm not okay. It's gonna be alright, 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 alright. I'm not alright. How's it gonna be without you tomorrow? How's it gonna be? How's it gonna feel to live in your sorrow? How's it gonna be?
That was awesome. Who's playing drums on that?
That was Ryan Brown, I believe, for most of it. I had two different drummers do it. So there's
That's awesome. Wait, you would like one played first half and one played second half or something? What did you do?
I hired one guy to do it, and then I ended up having Ryan and Sean track it live, and it was just one of those things where I think that the tail end just it sounded a little bit better. What the other guy did, what Ryan did was great. It was just that ending just sounded a little cleaner for whatever reason.
It sounded great. It sounded very Foo Fighters-ish. I definitely hear a lot of Foo Fighters in this song.
There's definitely some Foo Fighters for sure. That was a fun song to work on.
And what was the inspiration behind the song? Is this one of the ones that Rob did? That Rob produced?
Yeah, so Rob, I've been working on this song. This is probably the song I've spent like rewritten the most. I brought this to Rob, the first version of it, like way back, probably in like 16 or 17. And it's just been the big inspiration was like this was right after my mom passed in like 14, like the end of 14.
Wow.
And so
sorry to hear that.
Yeah, it was and it was like trying to deal with the loss, but like also coming from the perspective of like the hurt I felt when I lost her was the same hurt that I felt when I lost my dog, when I lost my grandfather, more recently when I lost my dad. I mean, it's the same crappy feeling.
Yeah.
And so if I were going to say like, what's the inspiration behind the song? It's that, although the lyrics and the subject matter is like kind of dark, like the music's really upbeat and uplifting. And so it's the world moves on regardless of anything else that's happening. And I'm kind of in the song of I'm not quite ready to move on. I'm still in this space. Like, let me do my thing. And that's kind of the place I wrote the song from. I really tried to write it from the perspective of how would I feel if I was my dad losing somebody who I consider to be like my soulmate. And like how devastated would I be in that context? And that's kind of where I came from with that. Yeah. And so like I actually retracked the vocals recently with Rob a couple months ago, and it had a new dimension knowing that my dad would be in some capacity seeing my mom soon,
Right.
I'm not sure where I fall on that whole spectrum, but I definitely believe there's some sort of cosmic energy, and I think that we're all connected. And so I just gave me a little something extra when I was going to perform that, just to know that was a thing.
Well, I think it would be weird if we live this life and disappear and don't get reunited with the people that we were put on this earth with. You know what I mean? So it does have some like significant symbolism that I should hope that, the people we love find each other in the next realm. You know what I mean?
Right.
I think that's important. So it's cool. I like the line you said, it's going to be all right. I'm not all right, but it's going to be all right. It's like everybody can relate to that line because there's hope, and then there's like, yo, I'm not okay, but it's like you fire up the hope, and it comes back to that. Tell me what you were feeling when you wrote that. Was it despair? Were you looking for hope? Like, what was the mind?
I just like, I was coming from a place of like, there's been a few times in my life where like everything was like changing. Like I got a job promotion, moved, got married, had a honeymoon, and my mom died in 2 months.
Wow.
So it was just like,
yeah.
boom.
Yeah.
Similar thing like senior year of high school was like, got evicted, graduated, like all this other stuff, very short period of time. And it's like in those situations where you just, people are like, oh dude, it's gonna be all right. And it's like, screw you, it's not okay right now.
Right.
Like, I know you're coming from a good place, but I am not there.
Right.
And I need time to get through this.
I like that. It's real. It's vulnerable, and that's really what it's all about. Where can people find you if they want to find your music online or if they want to follow you online?
Yeah, so at the Dark Sea Music, just like it's one word. I'm on YouTube. What is it? Not Twitter or X. Let's just not do that. And then and Instagram, Threads, which I've been loving. And then TikTok, yeah. YouTube Shorts, all that.
At the Dark Sea Music.
At the Dark Sea Music, yeah. And then darksea.com is my website.
Well, Patrick, I love that that you are continuing to write, make records, continue the story. You've gone through heartache, you've gone through loss, you've gone through moving all around the country, and it's really cool that your music is reflecting and documenting all these changes for you. And we're gonna have you back. We're gonna bring you back on the show as you keep on writing, keep on making records, and yeah, man. One more time. Sorry, go ahead. What were you gonna say?
I just want to say I appreciate you having me on.
Of course.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
man. No, thank you for being a guest on Wake Up Hollywood. And we'll continue this journey on behalf of Sam, myself, and Patrick, aka The Dark Sea. Check out his music at The Dark Sea Music everywhere on all the platforms. We'll see you guys next week. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. Peace, love, and hair grease.
You're listening to Wake Up Hollywood with Nikki Korula and Eddie Pence, right here on LA Talk Radio.